They skipped my birthday dinner. Said they got caught up, but used my card for a $1,350 brunch the next morning. Photos posted, "Thanks, my name, for always treating us right." I said nothing. Froze the tab, reported the fraud, and pulled the loyalty points. An hour later, the restaurant called them. Later, Dad called me. My birthday was on a Sunday this year. I kept the plan simple, just a small dinner at a local place and some cake afterward. I even made the reservation myself. Send out the time and address to my parents, my older sister Mia, her husband Ryan, and a couple cousins. They all said they were coming. No one showed. They didn't even text. Not until almost 10 that night when Mia sent a group message saying they were running late and had gotten caught up with something. That was it. No call, no explanation. I waited at that restaurant for over an hour and ended up eating alone. The waitress kept refilling my water with that same polite smile like she felt sorry for me. I left a good tip anyway. I went home. No one called me. No one showed up with cake. No messages came in at midnight. The next morning, I woke up to a notification from my credit card company about a charge I didn't recognize. $1,350 at a fancy brunch spot in town. I knew immediately what it was. It wasn't even a guess. It was instinct. I opened Instagram. There they were. Me, Ryan, my parents, my two cousins sitting at a long outdoor table with champagne glasses raised, omelets and seafood towers spread across the table like some hotel buffet in Vegas. The caption under Mia's post said, "Thank you, Jack, for always treating us so." A clinking glasses, sparkling heart. Best brother ever. I didn't comment. I didn't text them. I just blocked her account. I reported the charge as fraud. And while I was on the phone with the bank, I also canceled the bonus points. It felt stupidly satisfying to know they wouldn't even get their airline miles out of it. About an hour later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. The message was from a manager at the restaurant where they'd eaten, saying the card had been flagged and I needed to call them back. A minute later, my dad called. That one I answered. I figured I might as well. He didn't say hello. Just started in on how embarrassing it was to have the cops show up at a restaurant over a family misunderstanding. How I blew things out of proportion. How I owed them an apology for making them look bad. I didn't argue. I just asked calmly for my card back and told him they needed to return the $1,350 they spent. I also mentioned I'd filed a police report. He laughed, said, "You wouldn't dare." By 4:00 p.m., a patrol car pulled up outside my parents' place. I wasn't there, but my neighbors sent me a video. My mom handed my card to the officer and wrote me a check. I cashed it the same day. That night, I got added to a new group chat called Family Talk. The first message was from Mia. It said, "Hope you're happy, Jack." What came next wasn't quiet. The next morning, after the refund and the blocked accounts, I drove over to my parents' place. I wasn't planning some confrontation. I just needed to pick up a box of old tools I'd left in the garage months ago. I didn't even think they'd be home. They were. Not only were my parents there, but so were Mia and Ryan, Uncle Pete and Laura, Jason and Elle. It looked like they'd gathered to discuss a hostage situation. I walked in, and the whole room went quiet like I just interrupted a eulogy. My dad was sitting on the recliner like a king on his throne, beer in hand, while the others sat around the coffee table, faces stiff and smug. Nobody said hi. Nobody offered a seat. Look who finally decided to show up. My dad said, "We were just talking about you." I didn't respond, just asked where the box was. My mom pointed toward the garage. She didn't say anything either. She looked at me, then looked away just as quickly. I went to get the tools, trying to pretend I didn't hear the whispered comments coming from the living room. He went crying to the cops over brunch. Ryan said, "Imagine embarrassing your family like that." Mia added, "He's always had that victim complex." Then Pete chimed in with something about how some kids just grow up soft. I knew they wanted me to react. They wanted a scene. I didn't give them one. As I came back through the house with the box in my arms, Jason met my eyes. We were close once, used to share everything. He looked down and started scrolling through his phone like I wasn't even there. Elle didn't even bother pretending. I paused at the door, thinking I might say something, anything. But what was the point? They'd already made it clear I was no longer part of the inner circle. Maybe I never was. I left without a word. Back home, I blocked a few more numbers. The new group chat Mia had made, Family Talk, was just a collection of passive-aggressive jabs and inside jokes clearly meant to exclude me. I didn't respond once. 8 days passed. It was a Thursday afternoon when my phone buzzed with a call from my dad. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me, so I let it go to voicemail. He sounded strained, tense, said his car had broken down, the alternator or something more serious, and the repair bill came to over $1,200. He needed $900, just a short loan, just until things got sorted. He said he knew he could count on me. That was how he phrased it. I know I can count on you, Jack. That one sentence hit me harder than all the insults. I waited about 15 minutes before calling him back. He picked up fast like he'd been sitting there staring at the phone. I said, "No, just that. Nothing else." There was a long pause. Then he hung up. No shouting, no bargaining, no guilt tripping. It was almost disappointing how quiet it was. But that silence said everything. And that was the moment I realized I wasn't just outside the family anymore. I was finally free from it. 3 days after my dad's call, I got a voicemail from my mom. She never used to call me much, just forwarded memes or sent a text on holidays. But this time she called twice in one day. The message wasn't angry. She sounded measured, maybe even rehearsed. She said they'd been dealing with a lot lately, and she hoped I wasn't taking things too personally. She said, maybe I didn't need to cover the full $900. Maybe $400 or $500 would help. She ended it with, "We're still family, Jack." I sat on that message for a few hours, then called her back. She picked up immediately, said she was glad I called. I told her calmly that I wasn't lending anyone money. I said it without attitude, without any smugness, just a straight fact. She didn't argue. She paused, said she understood, then hung up. I expected that to be the end of it, but the next day the group chat lit up again. This time Ryan kicked it off. Family really means nothing to some people. Then Mia. Jack's busy being a victim. Must be exhausting. Jason followed with, some people act like they're above it all until it's time to do something real. Even Elle joined in, which surprised me. She was never as loud as the rest of them. Guess Jack forgot where he came from. Still, I didn't respond. I left the chat open and muted like a fire I refused to put out, but wanted to watch burn. The messages weren't really about me anymore. They were about them panicking, losing control of the one person who never fought back. On Saturday, I heard a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole and saw my dad standing there. No warning, just showed up. I stood there watching him for a bit. He knocked again. Didn't shout, didn't bang. Just stood there like he was waiting for a taxi that wouldn't come. Then he reached into his back pocket and slid something under the door. It was a piece of paper. After he left, I unfolded it. It was a repair estimate from a mechanic shop. $1,215 total. A red pen circled the line that said, parts and labor, $897. No note, just the receipt. I left it on the kitchen counter and went about my day. The next day, my mom came by. She didn't knock. She called from the parking lot and asked if I could come down. She said she just wanted to talk. I waited a few minutes before walking out. She was standing next to her car looking small in the middle of the lot. She asked how I was doing. I said fine. Then she asked why I was acting so cold and cutting off the people who love me. She said I was making things worse by holding on to something that didn't need to go this far. I asked her what exactly I was holding on to. Was it the stolen birthday, the fraudulent charge, the group chat jokes, or maybe the part where she stood there and let them all gang up on me without saying a word? She looked down, said it wasn't like that. I told her I wasn't angry. I just finally stopped pretending everything was okay. She asked if I'd at least think about coming to dinner next week. She promised it would be calm. No drama, just food and talking. I said I'd think about it. She drove off a few minutes later. I already knew the answer. I wasn't going. This wasn't silence anymore. This was distance. And I was finally starting to breathe. 3 days after that last talk in the parking lot, another invitation came. Not a call. This time, not a text. It was a card slipped directly into my mailbox. No envelope, no stamp, just folded paper with my name, written across the front in my mom's careful cursive. Inside in blue ink, she wrote, "Dinner Sunday at 6 p.m. We all miss you. Let's start fresh. Please come. Love, Mom." She added a little heart under her name like she used to when I was a kid, and she packed notes in my school lunches. I stared at it for a while, trying to decide what I wanted it to mean. For a moment, I thought maybe they had figured it out. Maybe there was a shred of remorse. Maybe they finally realized how ugly all of it had been. So I didn't respond. I didn't send a message or call. I just waited. Sunday came, and all day I debated whether I should go. At 5:45, I got in the car without really deciding to. I didn't even know if I was going to knock. But something in me needed to see what this was, whether it was a peace offering or something else. I pulled up to the house at 558. The driveway was full. Mia's SUV, Ryan's truck, Jason's new car. Even Uncle Pete's Buick parked at an angle like he couldn't be bothered to fit between the lines. The porch lights were on, and I could hear music playing inside. I walked up the steps and rang the doorbell. Nothing. I waited, then rang again. Still nothing. I tried the doorknob. Locked. I knocked. No answer. After another minute or two, I pulled out my phone and texted my mom. "I'm here." I watched the screen. The message said, "Delivered." No reply. I stood there for a while, then walked around the side of the house. Through the kitchen window, I could see them. All of them sitting around the table laughing. Plates passed between hands, wine glasses raised. Ryan was talking with his mouth full like always. Mia was cutting something and waving a fork at Jason. Everyone was there. Everyone but me. They hadn't forgotten. They knew I was coming. They'd locked the door on purpose. The entire thing, the invitation, the note, was a game, a trap to make me show up and leave me standing outside like a joke they could all be in on together. I stayed there for a few seconds watching through the glass. Then I turned around and walked back to my car. I didn't knock again. I didn't text. I didn't drive off angry. I drove off with a strange cal I hadn't felt in weeks. They wanted to make a point. Fine. Message received. The next morning, I opened Instagram. Jason had posted a picture of the dinner table. Everyone raising glasses, smiling wide. The caption read, "Family is everything. The real ones show up." No one tagged me, but they didn't have to. That same day, I pulled the trigger on the one thing I knew would drive them mad. I updated my bank account information to a new card, changed every single password tied to old family access points, streaming login, shared subscriptions, the Costco membership under my name, canceled the Netflix account I'd been paying for since college. The one Mia, Ryan, Jason, Elle, and my parents all still used. The group chat exploded that afternoon. "Ryan, why is the Netflix down?" Mia, "Jack, seriously, this is childish." Jason, "You're a joke, dude. My dad didn't message. He called. I didn't answer. They made it clear they didn't want me at the table. So, I started pulling the chairs out from under them one by one. Quietly, neatly. No shouting, no speeches. I wasn't at war. I was just cleaning house. 2 days after I quietly cut off the family from everything I was still paying for. Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, the Costco membership no one had ever offered to pitch in for. My phone lit up like a slot machine at 3 a.m. Over 40 notifications, not from the group chat, though. I'd silenced that graveyard a while ago. These were direct messages. Mia, Ryan, Elle, even my mom. Each one hitting a different tone like they were all assigned roles in a badly written play. Mia led with guilt. "Jack, are you seriously taking things this far? Over one dinner?" Ryan, as always, chose mockery. "King Petty strikes again. Hope the $15 you saved was worth it." Elle surprised me. She tried kindness. "You don't have to freeze everyone out, Jack. You made your point. Let's just stop." My mom kept it short. "Call me when you're ready to act like family again." None of it fazed me anymore. I'd realized something. They only reached out when I stopped giving. That was the only language they understood. Access. When it was gone, they noticed. But the real shock came later that afternoon. I was sorting through spam emails when a message pinged through on Facebook from someone named Danielle M. The name didn't register at first, but I clicked anyway. Her profile was quiet, almost bare, just a few photos. A woman in her mid-30s with a kind face, and a little boy in nearly every picture, maybe 5 or 6, big brown eyes, curly hair, a bright red backpack in one photo with his name written on the flap. Noah. Then I saw it. One of the older photos was a wedding picture. Jason's wedding. Danielle was his ex-wife. Her message said, "Hi, Jack. I know this is weird and I hope I'm not crossing a line, but I saw the comments on your cousin's post and I just want to say you're not crazy. You're not wrong. They protect each other no matter who gets hurt." That alone made my chest tighten, but it didn't stop there. I responded, "What do you mean?" What followed over the next hour was a steady drip of screenshots, emails, and legal letters. Danielle told me Jason hadn't seen Noah in almost a year. No birthday calls, no visits, no child support paid since October. She'd gone through the courts, tried everything. She sent me a PDF of the official notice where he was warned his wages would be garnished. Then she told me something that flipped the whole table. "I called your mom last year when Jason vanished. She answered, told me to stop making things worse. Said Jason was going through a lot and bringing money into it was disrespectful." Then she hung up. My mom, the same mom who begged me to come to dinner, who said we should start fresh, who locked the door when I showed up. I thanked Danielle, told her I was sorry, even though none of it was technically my fault. Then I did what none of them ever expected me to do. I filed an anonymous complaint with the Department of Child Support Enforcement, attached Danielle's court documents and Jason's employer info, which I still had because he once used my email to apply for a car loan. By Monday morning, it had begun. Jason's accounts got flagged. His bank froze through transfers. The dealership called him about a delayed payment. He got a letter from the state, and because it was legally tied to Danielle's active case, it wasn't something he could ignore or yell his way out of. That night, Uncle Pete called me. First time in years. "Whatever you did, undo it." Right now, I asked what he meant. Jason's life is being torn apart. Frozen cards, threats from the state. "You started this," I said. "No, Jason started it. I just ended the silence." He tried to shift gears. "You think you're above us now?" I said, "I don't think about you at all." Then I hung up. No screaming, no revenge speech, just quiet, deliberate consequence. And when I logged into the group chat later out of pure curiosity, I saw something new. Not insults, just silence. After the state got involved with Jason, everything went quiet. Too quiet. No one texted. No one called, not even Mia. And that alone was enough to raise suspicion. Silence had never been their thing. They were loud, reactive, dramatic. If they weren't yelling, they were whispering loudly enough to be heard. So I waited. The quiet lasted just under 2 weeks. Then, strange things started happening. First was an email from a freelance designer. She thanked me for choosing her to develop my business site and said she was happy with the 50% deposit and looking forward to delivering the first draft of mievento.com. The logo mockup was attached. I stared at the invoice for a full minute. The card number she charged was one I hadn't used in over a year. A card I had once temporarily linked to my old Apple ID on the family laptop back when I lived at home. And we all shared one device in the kitchen. I had removed the card, wiped my login, but I'd clearly left something behind. Something Mia found. She'd used my name and email to commission the site. Signed it. Jack B. I didn't lose it. I reported the charge, called the designer, explained calmly that the work was requested under false information. I apologized, told her it wasn't her fault, and she wouldn't be paid for anything unless she could bill Mia directly. She understood. That was the easy part. Then came the job reference. An old boss I hadn't spoken to in 5 years reached out through LinkedIn. Said he got a call from someone asking about me. A man said he worked in compliance and needed to confirm details about my employment history. The boss said it seemed off and wanted to let me know. I knew who it was. Ryan. He never liked how I left the family business cleanly. How I managed to carve something out without needing any of them. So now he was planting whispers, trying to make something stick in places I'd worked hard to build up. Again, I didn't react. I didn't text him. I didn't bring it up in the group chat that was still there, still muted, still buzzing every few days with carefully staged photos of fake smiles and filtered Sunday brunches. But I did something else. I started documenting every false charge, every anonymous call, every attempt to use my name, my identity, my history. I saved screenshots. I created a file. Not because I wanted to sue them. Not yet. But because I knew what they were really doing. They weren't trying to get back at me. They were trying to build a version of me. A distorted copy. The angry one, the vengeful one, the liar, the unstable brother who went too far. They were laying the groundwork for their defense just in case this ever blew open. Just in case anyone asked them later what happened with Jack. They wanted a version they could control. So I stayed quiet, but I made moves they didn't know about. I met with someone, a friend of a friend, a professional, someone who deals in reputational cleanup, digital footprints, and legal preemptives. She told me to gather everything, every piece, every voice memo, every recorded call, every email I could forward. She said, "You're building a wall. Don't fire. Fortify." That's what I'm doing now. But I've also started something else. Something they haven't figured out yet. Something outside their control. It's not legal action, not directly. It's not public exposure. It's quieter than that, more personal. Something that presses right against the thin surface of their perfect little image without ever cracking it until it does. They think I'm waiting for peace. They think I'm still hurt. They think I'm done. They have no idea I barely started. And when I come back to tell you what happened, how it all unfolded, how it all finally came to the surface, I promise it'll be worth reading. Because some families only understand the fire once it's already in the house. The update. Weeks passed quietly on the surface at least. The group chat stayed silent. The social media jab stopped. Not a word from Mia, Ryan, or Jason. Even my mom's usual forwarded prayers and dog memes disappeared. At first, it seemed like peace, but I know my family better than that. It wasn't peace. It was recalibration. Then one Sunday afternoon, I saw it. A story tagged by one of Mia's friends. My family seated neatly in a church pew, hands folded, all smiles. The caption read, "Faith, forgiveness, unity." Nothing more powerful. That wasn't a photo. It was a message. A few days later, I got home from work and found something slid under my apartment door. An envelope, thin, formal. Inside were volunteer forms for a local charity dinner. One that my mom used to drag me to every year when I was younger. This one was signed. In her handwriting, at the bottom of the waiver, she'd written, "Please come back, son." No explanation, no apology, just that. I didn't reply. I didn't even move the forms off my kitchen counter. They're still sitting there gathering dust under a coffee mug. But last night, things changed again. At 2:14 a.m., I got a text from an unknown number. It wasn't one of their voices. No emojis. No guilt. Just a plain message. "Meet me at 7:30. Coffee shop on Pine. I have something you need to see." No name, no clue who it came from. Just the kind of message that makes your pulse quicken for no logical reason. I thought about ignoring it. Then I thought about everything they've done, what they've tried, what they're capable of, and curiosity won. So yes, I'm going tomorrow night. I'll walk into that cafe alone. I don't know what's waiting for me. Could be nothing. Could be everything. But whatever happens, I'll be back here to tell you. And if what's waiting there is what I think it is, then this story is about to open a brand new chapter.